During my time as the Chief of Public Integrity, I investigated cases involving both Republicans and Democrats. The standard in all of those cases was the same: follow the facts and the law. Didn't matter what party you in, it mattered the facts of the case. In doing that, there were cases I brought against Democrats and cases I brought against Republicans.
It unfolded under bright lights and heavy tension, with America's political divisions compressed into a single hearing room where every word carried consequences. Jack Smith, the special counsel who has become a central figure in the legal battles surrounding Donald Trump, sat before the House Judiciary Committee and delivered testimony that cut directly through years of misinformation about the 2020 election and the investigations that followed. The moment was not theatrical by design, but it quickly became one of the most revealing clashes between institutions and personalities that the country has seen in recent years. Smith's testimony focused on a straightforward objective: countering false claims about election fraud and defending the legitimacy of the investigations into Trump's conduct. He outlined, in careful and measured language, how the Justice Department approached the cases, emphasizing that they were driven by evidence, law, and constitutional responsibility rather than politics. Smith stressed that the investigations were not personal vendettas, nor were they designed to influence elections. Instead, he framed them as necessary responses to serious questions about actions taken before, during, and after the 2020 vote. His tone was restrained, almost deliberately unremarkable, as if to signal that the work of law enforcement should not be confused with political theater, no matter how loud the surrounding noise becomes. That restraint stood in sharp contrast to the reaction unfolding simultaneously online. As Smith testified, Donald Trump took to Truth Social and unleashed a barrage of angry posts. The former president attacked Smith personally, calling him deranged and accusing him of corruption. He dismissed the investigation as a partisan scam, repeating familiar claims that the justice system had been weaponized against him. The timing of the posts was unmistakable. Trump was responding in real time, using his platform to shape the narrative while the hearing was still underway. For supporters, the posts reinforced Trump's image as a fighter pushing back against what he describes as a hostile system. For critics, they underscored a pattern of personal attacks aimed at discrediting institutions rather than addressing facts. The tension escalated when one of Trump's Truth Social posts was read aloud during the hearing. A Democratic lawmaker recited the words directly to Smith and invited him to respond. It was a moment designed to force a confrontation, to see whether Smith would engage with Trump's insults or attempt to rebut them point by point. The room seemed to pause, waiting for a reaction. Instead, Smith declined to comment. He refused to engage with the attacks, offering no rebuttal and no emotional response. In doing so, he reinforced the contrast between Trump's combative style and his own insistence on professional restraint. The silence was not evasive. It was deliberate, signaling that the special counsel would not be drawn into a public feud. Smith's refusal to respond carried its own message. By not engaging, he underscored his argument that the justice system should not operate on social media timelines or emotional outbursts. He positioned himself as a functionary of the law rather than a political actor, even as his very presence had become politicized. That contrast became one of the most striking elements of the hearing. On one side was a former president issuing personal attacks in real time. On the other was a prosecutor who declined to dignify those attacks with a response, focusing instead on institutional responsibility. Yet Smith did not shy away from acknowledging the personal stakes involved. During the hearing, he openly stated that he believes a Trump-led Department of Justice would attempt to prosecute him if given the opportunity. This admission was sobering. It raised the possibility of political retaliation becoming normalized, where prosecutors themselves could become targets, depending on who holds power. Smith framed this concern not as a complaint, but as a warning about the erosion of norms. If prosecutors are punished for doing their jobs, he suggested, the rule of law itself is weakened. His statement resonated beyond his own situation, highlighting fears that legal accountability could be replaced by cycles of revenge. That concern fed directly into a broader critique voiced during and after the hearing, that Trump's claims of weaponization are deeply hypocritical. Trump has repeatedly argued that the justice system is being used against him for political purposes, yet he has also called for investigations and prosecutions of his critics, rivals, and perceived enemies. The critics pointed out that during his presidency and campaigns, Trump often promised to lock up opponents and punish those who challenge him. The contrast between his rhetoric and his accusations against others has become a central point of contention. For those watching the hearing, Smith's calm demeanor only sharpened that contrast, making Trump's attacks appear more personal and less principled. The discussion also turned toward the broader record of the Department of Justice under President Joe Biden. Defenders of the administration emphasized that Attorney General Merrick Garland delayed action on Trump-related investigations for years, a decision that frustrated many Democrats who wanted faster accountability. They also highlighted the fact that Biden's DOJ prosecuted Biden's own son, Hunter Biden, as evidence that the department operates independently of political loyalty. This point was raised repeatedly to counter claims that the investigations were partisan. If the DOJ were truly acting as a political weapon, critics asked, why would it pursue cases that politically embarrass the sitting president? The hearing also reignited debate about Trump's priorities and past promises. Commentators contrasted his current focus on personal grievances and legal battles with campaign pledges that once centered on lowering costs, protecting benefits, and improving everyday life for Americans. Instead of detailed policy discussions, Trump's public messaging has increasingly revolved around perceived injustices against him personally. Critics argue that this shift reveals a pattern of self-interest, where power and personal vindication take precedence over broader public concerns. The spectacle of Trump attacking Smith during the hearing reinforced that perception for many viewers. Republican leadership in Congress did not escape criticism either. Some lawmakers were portrayed as enabling Trump's behavior by echoing his claims of persecution and downplaying the seriousness of the charges against him. Critics argued that this alignment prioritizes loyalty to Trump over institutional accountability. In their view, Congress has a responsibility to uphold the rule of law, even when it implicates powerful figures within their own party. By framing Smith as the problem rather than addressing the substance of the investigations, they argue, Republican leaders risk undermining public trust in democratic institutions. As the hearing concluded, the broader message came into focus. This was not just about Jack Smith or Donald Trump. It was about accountability, elections, and the future of democratic norms. Smith's testimony underscored the idea that investigations into powerful individuals are not acts of political aggression but essential components of a functioning democracy. Trump's reaction, by contrast, highlighted how deeply personal grievance has become intertwined with political identity. The clash between these two approaches reflects a larger struggle over how power should be constrained and how truth should be defended. The stakes extend beyond the courtroom and the hearing room. With midterm elections approaching, the debate over accountability and institutional independence is likely to intensify. Voters are being asked, implicitly and explicitly, to decide whether they value restraint and rule-based governance or confrontation and personal loyalty. The hearing served as a reminder that civic engagement matters, not just in voting booths but in how citizens evaluate claims, demand evidence, and hold leaders to account. The outcome of this debate will shape not only individual careers, but the character of American democracy itself. In the end, the image that may linger longest from the hearing is not a shouted accusation or a viral post, but a quiet refusal to engage in personal attacks. Smith's silence in the face of Trump's insults was a statement in itself, one that contrasted sharply with the noise surrounding it. Whether that restraint will be rewarded or punished remains uncertain. What is clear is that the questions raised during the hearing will not fade quickly. They cut to the heart of how justice is administered, how power is exercised, and how a nation chooses to resolve its deepest disagreements. If you want to keep following this story and others like it as they continue to unfold, hit the subscribe button for more future uploads.